Sometimes, yet sometimes the good Lord. I say sometimes the good Lord accepts his own perfection and closes his eyes and goes ahead and takes his own good time. And he makes himself a man. Yes. And sometimes that man gets hold of the idea of what it is possible for him to do. And that man lets that idea guide him as he grows and struggles and stumbles and sorrows until finally he comes into his own God-given shape and achieves his own individual and lonely place in this world. It doesn't happen very often. Oh, no. But when it does, then even the stones will cry out in witness to his vision, and the hills and towers will echo his words and deeds, and his examples will live in the hearts of men forever. The Master doesn't make many like that, because that kind of man is dangerous to the sloppy ways of the world. That kind of man loves truth even more than he loves his life, or his wife, or his children. Because he's been designated and set aside to do the hard tasks that have to be done. That kind of man will do what he sees as justice, even if the earth yawns and swallows him down. And even then, his deeds will persist in the land forever. So you look at him. You look at him a while. And be thankful that the Lord let such a man touch our lives. Even if it were for only a little while.
It's time to watch one of the more serious pieces of my tape collection. This is a 1970 documentary on the King, Martin Luther King Jr. Now, my third grade teacher had this on tape, and she played it for us quite a few times over the year. And guess what? I have the tape right here. She gave it to me at the end of the year, and I've kept it all these years later. Like I said, this is from 1970, and it's a historical piece, so I figured we could watch it and try to learn something about ourselves and each other. So I'll catch you on the flip side.
We are here this evening for serious business. So many occasions, Negroes have been intimidated and humiliated and oppressed because of the sheer fact that they were Negroes. Just the other day, just last Thursday to be exact, one of the finest citizens in Montgomery, not only the finest Negro citizen, but one of the finest citizens in Montgomery was
started a bus protest which literally electrified the nation. And that was the day when we decided that we were not going to take segregated buses any longer. And you know, when we planned the bus boycott, we said if we could just get about 50 or 60% of the Negroes of Montgomery not to ride buses, this would be an effective boycott. I think that whole day we found 8 Negroes on the bus. And from that day on, that boycott was more than 99 9/10% effective. I remember that Monday morning when I was subpoenaed to be in court, the chief defendant. Many things ran through my mind. And I started thinking about the people. All day long trying to think of something to say to the people. Finally, I tried to talk. My words were tumbling a bit. Let us fight passionately and unrelentingly for the goals of justice and freedom. Let's be sure that our hands are clean in the struggle. Let us never fight with falsehood and violence and hate and malice, but always fight with love so that when the day comes that the walls of segregation have completely crumbled in Montgomery, we will be able to live with people as their brothers and sisters. Nonviolence with passive resistance and still determined to use the weapon of love. We are still insisting emphatically that violence is self-defeating, that he who lives by the sword will perish by the sword. Now I say to you, my friends, rise up and know that as you struggle for justice, you do not struggle alone, but God struggles with you. Freedom is never given to anybody, for the oppressor has you in domination because he plans to keep you there. He never voluntarily gives it up. That is where the strong resistance comes. We've got to keep on, keeping on, in order to gain freedom. It is not done voluntarily. It is done through the pressure that comes about from people who are oppressed. Privileged classes never give up their privileges without strong resistance.
They want to throw white children and colored children into the melting pot of integration, out of which will come a conglomerated, mulatto, mongrel class of people. All races will be destroyed in such a movement. I, for one, under God, will die before I'll yield 1 inch to that kind of a movement.
I want young men and young women who are not alive today, but who will come into this world with new privileges and new opportunities. I want them to know and see that these new privileges and opportunities did not come without somebody suffering and sacrificing for them.
I hereby defy a ruling handed down by the United States Supreme Court ordering desegregation of public carriers. Alabama state law requiring segregation of races on buses still stands. As long as I am president of the Alabama Public Service Commission, I am going to see that our segregation laws are upheld.
I have this day issued orders to the chief of police and the police department to continue to make arrests in all violations with reference to the segregation laws. And as long as I am police commissioner of the city of Montgomery, I intend to follow this course.
This morning, the long-awaited mandate from the United States Supreme Court concerning bus segregation came to Montgomery. This mandate expresses in terms that are crystal clear that segregation in public transportation is both legally and sociologically invalid. In the light of this mandate, and the unanimous vote rendered by the Montgomery Improvement Association about a month ago, the year-old protest against city buses is officially called off, and the Negro citizens of Montgomery are urged to return to the buses tomorrow morning on a non-segregated basis.
That all of the forces in the leadership of the South will eventually work out this thing for Negroes. It's going to work out. It's going to roll in on the wheels of inevitability. If we wait for it to work itself out, it will never be worked out. Freedom only comes through persistent revolt, through persistent agitation, through persistently rising up against the system of evil. Buses are integrated in Montgomery, but that is just the beginning. Don't sit down and do nothing, because if you stop now, we will be in the dungeons of segregation and discrimination for another 100 years. And our children and our children's children will suffer all of the bondage that we have lived under for years. It will be a long time before we forget the freedom rides. We just decided to take a ride for freedom. As a result of this, we were able to end segregation in interstate travel.
What these people are doing is not just traveling through Alabama in interstate commerce or interstate travel. They're buying tickets from town to town and getting off in each town and seeking through mixed groups, Negro men and white women, to force themselves into situations which tend to inflame the local people and incense them by going into waiting rooms, restaurants, cafes, lunch counters, which are traditionally and in many cases required by city ordinance to be segregated. Now, the best thing for King to do is to get out of Alabama as quickly as he can, because he's a menace to the peace of this city.
Now I'm tired of segregation, and now I want my equal rights. So well, respect and education, oh well, not social integration. Now that's why I'm fighting for my rights. So I'm fighting for my rights. Yes, I'm fighting for my rights. Yes, I'm fighting for my rights. Now myself get a hand, no windows, so the air couldn't come through. And I felt so hot and stuffy, and then I didn't know.
Unfortunately, somebody in my classroom was messing around, and this tape was in the VCR, and hit the record button, and recorded some Sesame Street or whatever. So that's 50 minutes, all that's left. But it gives you an idea of what this documentary was trying to do. You know, his voice, his speeches, overlaid with what video they had available at the time. Because after all, back then, you didn't have cameras with video. You had an actual camera with rolling film. Actual filming had to be developed. But for the King, there's quite a bit of footage out there, so that's really good. Like I said, I've been watching this on and off since 3rd grade, which was 30 years ago. Yeah, 30 years ago. Shh. Don't tell nobody I'm that old. Anyways, I have more historic footage on my YouTube channel, and there's more coming in the future. So you should really stay tuned to my channel, because you never know what might pop up. If there's something particular that you want to see, just let me know in the comments, because chances are I got it in my collection somewhere.